All right, Skype Live. And let's video Skype him right now. James Fetzer.
Yes, I'm here.
Alrighty, and here comes your video. There you are. Hello, James. Welcome to the program.
I'm delighted to be on the edge with you, Daniel.
Okay. All right. It's good to see you again, Doctor. You know, this is the Edge's final show before the election, and I thought it was just the timing was right. And we're going to be talking about Hillary Clinton, some other things. But I've kind of announced that you sent me a couple of links for videos that are pretty awesome. And we're going to play those early in the show. Before we do, Doctor, why don't you just kind of introduce yourself to our audience if you can? A little bit about yourself.
Well, sure. I'm a former Marine Corps officer, distinguished McKnight University professor emeritus on the Duluth campus of the University of Minnesota. I had a 15-year career offering courses principally in logic, critical thinking, and scientific reasoning. I've published a great deal. Retired in 2006 and have been devoting the rest of my life to exposing the lies, deceit, and deception the government has been foisting off upon us. My latest book, From Orlando to Dallas and Beyond, which has just appeared, has 15 contributors and is a devastating indictment demonstrating that Orlando was a fraud, that Dallas was Photoshop photographs, and that even Hillary is being played by doubles, if you can believe that, Daniel.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can believe it because look, man, we have a president whose only claim to fame is they were a community organizer. So beyond that, I mean, you can tell me anything, and I'll sort through it to see if somebody had to disprove it before I'll disbelieve it.
Well, Daniel, it very much upsets me that they have taken such a strong stand in attacking Donald Trump over his alleged sexual misadventures. Yes, he has said things that are not unusual for men who are straight alpha males. Mm-hmm. I have been astounded, however, to see Michelle Obama out on the stump, Barack Obama out on the stump, because maybe your viewers are unaware, Daniel, and I hate to say, but this show may be at least PG rated, maybe even R, because Michelle has a package that most women do not have, and that implies that their children are adopted and that Barack is gay. If anyone has a doubt about it, just do a search on, is Michelle Obama a man? I mean, these people are completely fraudulent. Joan Rivers revealed as much 2 weeks before she had a minor operation that left her dead, when she was being questioned as to, now that we've had our first black president, do you think we'll ever have a gay president? And she explained we already do, and that Michelle is a tranny. Mm-hmm. Though the package implies to me that she is more of a cross-dresser because she still has the equipment with which she was born. Mm-hmm. Her name being Michael Laverne Robinson. You can check it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, in package versus package, man, I mean, I don't go out displaying like that. I don't even know. Was she trying to turn somebody on, some transvestites, or what's going on there?
I don't know. You know, I've always liked Michelle, but the deeper I've got into all of this, the extent of the deceit and deception has just been overwhelming. I'm no longer willing to take it. I'm going to speak out. I'm going to do everything I can to expose it. I first got drawn into research and controversial and complex issues, often referred to as conspiracies or even conspiracy theories, with research on JFK. That was initiated back in 1992 when I discovered that the editor-in-chief of the Journal of the American Medical Association was speaking out and attacking everyone who'd ever done serious research on the assassination. Mm-hmm. I knew that was all wrong. I began following the journal and discovered a letter from a fellow with both a PhD and an MD who shared my sentiments. His name, David W. Mantic. He has a PhD in physics from Wisconsin, an MD from Michigan. He's board certified in radiation oncology, which is a treatment of cancer using X-ray therapy. we began collaborating in late 1992, just before he entered the National Archives for the first time, where he's now visited some 10 times, and discovered that the official autopsies of JFK had been altered to conceal a blowout at the back of the head, fist-sized blowout at the back of the head caused by a shot from in front. That another X-ray had been altered by adding a 6.5 millimeter metallic slice to implicate this obscure World War II weapon known as a humanitarian rifle for never actually harming anyone on purpose. We went from there. I invited a world authority on the human brain who's also an expert on wound ballistics to join us, a physician who'd actually been in trauma room number 1 when JFK's moribund body was brought in, and then 2 days later was responsible for the care of his alleged assassin, Lee Oswald, a legendary photo and film analyst, another PhD in physics, this time with especially in electromagnetism, the properties of light and of images of moving objects, who's done extraordinarily good work on the Zapruder film, which many Americans still believe is authentic, but which in fact has been massively revised and edited, and where I subsequently would publish 3 books: Assassination Science, 1998, Murder in Dealey Plaza, 2000, The Great Zapruder Hoax, 2003, chair or co-chair 5 different national conferences on the death of JFK. And when 9/11 occurred, I was really taken aback because we have a daughter then living in Bradenton, Florida, who called and said we ought to turn on the TV. And there was the North Tower smoking. Shortly, there was to be a spectacular fireball at the South Tower. When the buildings went down, Daniel, I knew this was a physical impossibility, but I doubted I'd ever be in a position to do anything about it. Surprisingly, in late 2005, I found myself in a discussion group with a couple of dozen experts in relation to JFK, many different disciplines, and it occurred to me that founding a society, a loose affiliation of experts in different fields, pilots, physicists, engineers, structural, civil, aeronautical, and so forth, having a website, promoting conferences, publishing articles, and the like might be a very appropriate thing to do. And I founded Scholars for 9/11 Truth, and it took off from there. And subsequently, I've simply broadened out to these many other deceits and deceptions, including Sandy Hook, the Boston bombing, San Bernardino is yet another. We even have the Craigslist ad for extras at San Bernardino, Daniel. I mean, all of this is so outrageous. And I published my second book on 9/11 recently because we discovered that the way it was done was very far removed from what the government has told us. It was actually done using a sophisticated arrangement of mini or micro nukes directed upward to blow the buildings down from the top down. They were blowing apart in every direction. The buildings were being turned into millions of cubic yards of very fine dust. And when it was over, there was no pile of debris in their footprint. Contrast that with Building 7, which came down 7 hours later in a classic controlled demolition. All the floors came down at the same time. They weren't being converted into cubic yards of very fine dust, which, by the way, is a characteristic signature of the use of nuclear weapons. And when it was over, there was a stack of debris equal to 12% of the height of the original 47 floors, or about 5.5 floors. That meant that in the case of the 110-story Twin Towers, we should have had around 13.5 floors apiece. But because they'd been decimated, really, turned into very fine dust, that didn't happen. That and the studies done by the U.S. Geological Survey, which turned up all kinds of elements in the dust. They took samples at 35 different locations: barium, strontium, lithium, lanthanum, tritium, a whole host of elements that, in the quantities and correlations discovered, were indicative of this having been a nuclear event, and where there are now some 70,000 first responders, residents of the area, Daniel, who are suffering from the debilitating effects of exposure to ionizing radiation, multiple myeloma, leukemia, esophageal, pancreatic cancer, brain and plasma cancers. I mean, the evidence this was a nuclear event is simply overwhelming.
Okay. All right. Well, Doctor, we do get questions in. We've got a few questions here already. So this is from Nova Scotia, a viewer there. It says, how is it that China supports Clinton, but Russia wants Trump? Will the election ruin their cozy relationship?
Well, all this talk about Russia intervening to manipulate is complete fabrication. It has no foundation whatsoever. It's very embarrassing. I watched Geraldo Rivera recently, may have been even this morning, talk about Russia intervening. There is no evidence of Russian intervention. That's completely ridiculous. The Russians have no interest in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a bona fide, genuine risk that the election may be manipulated and stolen. In fact, Bev Harris, well known for black box voting, where you know what goes in and you know what comes out, but you have no idea what happens in between, has discovered the existence of a new software program called GEMS, that uses what she calls fractional voting. So they can treat votes as decimal representations. They can count the same vote 1,000 times. They can weight another vote 1/1,000th and make it come out any predetermined percentage. Mm-hmm. We actually have what appears to be an inadvertent release of a report about the results of the election from a news source in Chattanooga, Tennessee, that showed that Hillary had won the election by 42% to 40% for Trump. Well, they can rig these machines to bring it about any way they want. In fact, Guccifer, who's a very famous hacker who actually was instrumental in the revelations that led to the discovery of all of these files, all these emails that WikiLeaks has been releasing, has now reported that the Federal Election Commission has been hacked and that they appear to be set up to steal the election. This is my great fear. Mm-hmm. The way that everything is developing, the people seem to have caught on, and I'll have a great deal to say about this election and the respective candidates of the two candidates, and why, one of them is overwhelmingly preferable to the other, notwithstanding all the propaganda and disinformation that's being distributed about him, mm-hmm. which gives you a clue as to what I'm talking about. I mean, look at this, Daniel. We have Greg Hilliard, sources within the NYPD telling me this is way bigger than people know. Emails point to a pedophilia ring with Hillary Clinton at the center. Mm-hmm. Greg Hilliard comes back. I would not report this unless I was 100% sure. Known this source 15 years. Carmen Katz, my NYPD source, said it's much more vile and serious than classified material on Weiner's device. Mm-hmm. The email detail the trips made by Weiner, Bill, and Hillary on their pedophile billionaire friends playing the Lolita Express. Yep, Hillary has a well-documented predilection for underage girls, and Mr. Weiner just could not bear to see those details deleted. We're talking an international child enslavement and sex ring. Not even Hillary's most ardent supporters and defenders will be able to excuse this. Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what.
I believe Daniel, Hillary is in the midst of a perfect storm. That between all of the WikiLeaks that have revealed, for example, that the DNC sabotaged Bernie Sanders' campaign, mm-hmm. The new Veritas videos that are showing how they have been sending provocateurs into Trump rallies, where the guy who was in charge of that has visited the White House some 247 times. He's actually had personal meetings with Barack Obama at least 27 times. Which tells you that Obama is very concerned that Hillary should succeed because he doesn't want to be exposed. He doesn't want to be prosecuted. In fact, the whole Clinton Foundation thing is huge. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we're getting the increase in Obamacare premiums at the very time that the NYPD has become involved, and that WikiLeaks is continuing its revelations means the American people are in the position to be well informed about the choice between these two candidates. And frankly, the deeper you get into it, the more obvious it becomes.
Okay. I'll tell you what, Doctor, right there is a good, that sort of intro there is a good place for me to show this video. And for those watching the program or those in the chat, you might want to really pay attention to this because I was shocked by what this person said. I've seen him before. He does a regular program on the internet, but the way he put this together was amazing. So I'm going to take you out of the picture. And Doctor, while I play that video, I wonder if you can maybe get a light that shines maybe from your computer toward your face so that your face will be a bit more illuminated. Now,
Yeah,
you do that. You do that, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to play this video.
Okay, just to give background, this is from Bill Still, who's been doing a series of reports. They're rather short. This runs about 7 minutes, but it's devastating what he's telling us, and it all appears to be exactly right on the money.
Okay, and you if you'd be so kind as work on lighting to get the lighting to shine on your face. All right, guys, here it is. Here's the video link he sent. I'm going to play it right now. Pay attention to this. This is awesome.
Good afternoon. I'm still reporting on the Clintons. A thread on 4chan posting comments of a purported high-level FBI analyst claims that the Clinton Foundation's influence on both Republicans and Democrats may be much deeper than anyone had previously guessed. First, a word about the reliability of 4chan. It is a message board that's designed from the ground up to be totally anonymous. Users don't even have to pick a username. Posts are time sensitive. Less time for R-rated discussion threads, more time for G or PG-rated ones. So the reliability of the comments can only be judged by knowledge of the context surrounding the comments. I have some experience as an analyst in classified settings and believe the context makes these comments worthy of consideration. That's all. A few weeks ago, a 4chan thread was started just before FBI Director James Comey decided not to prosecute Hillary Clinton over the various scandals derived from the half of her emails which she didn't destroy. The numbered links were links within 4chan that existed as of last night but have been disappeared this morning. You'll have to take my word for it that I saw the contents with my own eyes for the time being. Speaking of Hillary Clinton, the discussion starts out with a board member asking Mr. FBI Guy the following: will she be indicted? Mr. FBI Guy responds, there is intense pressure for us not to do so. I am posting from a position of near anonymity and enough plausible deniability to evade prosecution, as we all have been given gag orders. There is enough for her and the entire government to be brought down. People do not realize how enormous this whole situation actually is. There are a lot of people involved. The real point of interest is the Clinton Foundation, not the email server. We received the server from Benghazi, then from that server we found data on the Clinton Foundation. Then we realized the situation is much worse than previously thought. The problem is the Clinton Foundation is a massive spider web of connections and money laundering implicating hundreds of high-level people. Hillary Rodham Clinton is just a piece, albeit a big piece, of this massive storm. There already is enough to indict. Comey has been trying to stall because he does not want to face the Clinton machine as well as the rest of Washington, D.C. But this case would explode into a million other cases if fully brought to light, and then we would be one agency competing against the entire government and a horde of other interests. It is a very tense, uncomfortable position. Then the thread starts to explain why Comey did not recommend indictment. It's just too big, especially if Clinton wins. Unless Trump wins, there will be no hope of fixing this, and the Clintons will rule completely outside the rule of law. If we recommend to indict, we literally hand over documentation implying the entire government is involved in treason at the highest levels and everyone is about to duck and cover. Then the thread talks about Russia. It has become obvious to me as an analyst that for whatever reason, war profiteering, strategic changing of the subject from Clinton criminality to war with Russia, etc. The Clinton operation is trying to stir up the drums of war. FBI Guy agrees. Some of my war strategy buddies are estimating a high probability that Russia will leak all of the info they have to the world, since Clinton wants to go to war with them and they have no desire to be in conflict with the U.S. So Trump is the guy trying to keep us out of a war with Russia. Trump realizes that the real threat is the Great Migration. It's like the old board game called Risk. If we don't team up with Russia, there can be no hope of defeating the jihad. You have three choices. A. Turn over all the information to the DOJ, make public a recommendation, the truth comes out, the entire world realizes how much the U.S. is meddling in foreign affairs, and we go to war. B. You cherry-pick the data to implicate the people already in the eye of public opinion, so the chips fall on the heads of a select few and the whole system does not crash. Or C. You do nothing and watch the unstable political climate to gauge how you will respond. I am confident if Trump wins, she will be going to jail. Comey will likely resign in any case. FBI is being very quiet for a reason. Most of us want to keep our jobs. Snowden has nothing to do with any of this. FBI guy then talks about the top-secret special access emails that Clinton had in her possession. HRC had them, and she did not have proper authority to have any of them. They were leaked to her by someone, and she did sell them to overseas donors. Possessing them alone makes her guilty of treason. Most of us are of the opinion that HRC will not be president, and having Trump in office makes our job that much easier. But right now, we have to carefully wade through the mud. Then FBI guy refers to the Bill Clinton, BC, and Loretta Lynch, LL, Planegate meeting at the Phoenix airport. BC likely wanted LL to focus on the email server and shy away from prosecuting the foundation. Then FBI guy explains the nonsense that is motivating globalist George Soros to fund the migrant invasion of Europe. The goal of Soros is to create a global government where all people intermingle and breed and become one people ruled by a racially pure Jewish race. They sincerely believe that under their rule all human conflict will cease because there will be no more cause for division. In other words, Soros believes that once races are sufficiently mixed and nationalism destroyed, will rule the planet. That may just depend on how you define the word rule and in whose benefit the ruling will occur, Mr. Soros. I'm still reporting from Washington. Good day.
Alrighty, that was Bill Still talking about what's really going on with the FBI. Jim, your lighting looks a whole lot better. Appreciate you doing that. Now, the underlying problem with the investigation is the DOJ is trying to prevent the information from coming out. Will they go around the DOJ to get that information out on the Clintons?
Well, here's the key thing about it, Daniel, that the NYPD is involved because it was Weiner, congressman, disgraced now from New York, because the laptops was there, because Huma had claimed she'd turned in everything she had, including laptops, and here there's one she hadn't mentioned, which turned out to have 650,000 emails. That's why they had to get an additional warrant. This was an unexpected development, and so many within the FBI itself were outraged that he hadn't brought an indictment against Hillary Clinton. And now the NYPD, listen to this. This will get you a sense of what's going on here. NYPD sources said Clinton's crew also included several unnamed but implicated members of Congress in addition to her aides and insiders. The NYPD seized the computer from Weiner during a search warrant, and detectives discovered a trove of over 500,000 emails to and from Hillary Clinton, Abedin, and other insiders during her tenure as Secretary of State. The content of those emails sparked the FBI to reopen its defunct email investigation into Clinton on Friday. But new revelations on the contents of that laptop, according to law enforcement sources, implicate the Democratic presidential candidate, her subordinates, and even select elected officials in far more alleged serious crimes than mishandling classified and top-secret emails, sources said. NYPD sources said these new emails include evidence linking Clinton herself and associates to money laundering, child exploitation, sex crimes with minors, perjury, pay to play through Clinton Foundation, obstruction of justice, other felony crimes. NYPD detectives and an NYPD chief, the department's highest rank under commissioner, said openly that if the FBI and Justice Department fail to garner timely indictments against Clinton and co-conspirators, NYPD will go public with the damaging emails now in the hands of FBI Director James Comey and many field offices. So while you're completely correct that Loretta Lynch has been trying to stop all this, put the quietus to it, it appears to me that because of the role of the NYPD, that's not going to happen. Get this from the chief. What's in the emails is staggering, and as a father, it turned my stomach, the NYPD chief said. There's not going to be any Houdini-like escape from what we found. We have copies of everything. We will ship them to WikiLeaks, or I will personally hold my own press conference if it comes to that. The NYPD chief said once Comey saw the alarming contents of the emails, he was forced to reopen the criminal probe against Clinton. People are going to prison, he said.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can only hope. The amount of crimes is so vast, it makes somebody's head spin. And of course, with the WikiLeaks coming out, there's no way. I don't even see how anybody's focusing on anything. I would just say focus on a couple of the crimes and just go with that. Every one of their crimes should put them all in jail.
Well, it's very, very interesting because, as Bill Still was observing, there seem to be three choices. If you go after everyone, it confronts the entire government. There appear to be 100 officials who are prominent members of the government who are involved here. And I have no doubt that includes Loretta Lynch and almost certainly Barack Obama himself. The second alternative is to just select a few and pursue those cases. The third is just to sit tight and wait and see how things play out. They believe that if Trump is elected, that they'll be able to pursue this. And we have another clip we're going to play where even Hillary herself admits that if Trump becomes president, that all of their heads are going to be in nooses. Mm-hmm. It's rather startling, mm-hmm. Daniel. I'm telling you, we're in an unprecedented territory here mm-hmm. where the degree of corruption is beyond belief.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, let's go ahead and play that second video and describe, Jim, what we're going to see in the second one.
Well, what's going on here is Bill Still is describing reports from the NBC crew that was videoing Hillary when she was participating in the Commander-in-Chief Forum, where she was on for a half an hour, Trump was on for a half an hour, Matt Lauer was the host. Hillary has been getting assistance with all of these debates. For example, Lester Holt sent the questions he was going to ask over to her campaign chairman a week in advance using an NBC intern dressed as a mm-hmm. FedEx employee. Mm-hmm. There were other reporters there who knew him, recognized him. One from Fox went over to the window and discovered that there was no FedEx truck there. That mm-hmm. was merely a subterfuge. She didn't give it to the receptionist or a secretary, which would have been the obvious thing to do had it been legit, but was ushered right into her campaign manager's office. Okay. Now, she and Lester had a signal so that when she rubbed her face, Lester went after Trump with very strenuously and then threw it to Hillary without asking an intervening question so she could deliver a prepared zinger.
Okay.
From the third debate, Daniel, we discovered Hillary had a built-in mini a teleprompter right there on mm-hmm. her podium, right there built in, which was why her answers were as clear and organized as they were. In other words, she's been cheating throughout. Now, mm-hmm. what happened with Matt Lauer is he asked her a question she hadn't seen before about her emails, and it really got her steamed.
Okay, let's go ahead and play that. Either mute your mic or be really still over there because your mic was hot last time. Here we go. Let's play this video, and here we go, everybody.
Good morning. I'm still reporting on the Clintons. Remember the September 7th Commander-in-Chief Forum where Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton appeared separately but back-to-back for 30 minutes each? According to an email forwarded to us late last night and originated from a Comcast email address, the technical crew for NBC, which produced the event, is now speaking out about what took place moments after Clinton walked off the set. A massive profanity-laced tirade aimed at NBC's host, Matt Lauer. It turned out that Clinton had been fed all the questions for approval in advance of the forum. But then, after the approval process, Matt Lauer had a change of heart and decided he would start his questioning with an unapproved line concerning Clinton's use of an illegal private server for her sometimes classified work-related emails.
Let me ask you something ahead of time that I'll ask Mr. Trump in a half an hour. To the best of your ability tonight, can we talk about your qualities and your qualifications to be commander-in-chief and not use this as an opportunity to attack Mr. Trump, all right? And I'll ask him the exact same thing.
I think that's an exactly right way to proceed.
Okay.
This is a very important decision for our country, and each of us should be presenting our experience, our expertise, and our plans to protect and defend the United States and our allies around the world.
What is the most important characteristic that a commander-in-chief can possess?
Steadiness, an absolute rock steadiness, and mixed with strength to be able to make the hard decisions, because I've had the unique experience of watching and working with several presidents.
So judgment is a key.
Temperament and judgment, yes.
The word judgment has been used a lot around you, Secretary Clinton, over the last year and a half, and in particular concerning your use of your personal email and server to communicate while you were Secretary of State. You've said it's a mistake. You said you made not the best choice. You were communicating on highly sensitive topics. Why wasn't it more than a mistake? Why wasn't it disqualifying if you want to be commander-in-chief?
Well, Matt, first of all, as I have said repeatedly, it was a mistake to have a personal account. I would certainly not do it again. I make no excuses for it. It was something that should not have been done. But the real question is the handling of classified material, which is, I think, what the implication of your question was. And for all the viewers watching you tonight, I have a lot of experience dealing with classified material, starting when I was on the Senate Armed Services Committee, going into the 4 years as Secretary of State. Classified material has a header which says top secret, secret, confidential, nothing. And I will repeat this, and this is verified in the report by the Department of Justice. None of the emails sent or received by me had such a header.
But Director Comey also said this after reviewing all the information. He said there is evidence to support a conclusion that any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation.
Well, Matt, I just respectfully point.
According to a Comcast official, the parent company of NBC Universal, who apparently was quoting those on the set, when Matt posed the one legitimate question about the FBI investigation concerning her homemade server and the unsecured emails, we could see she was beginning to boil. According to an NBC associate producer of the forum, as soon as Clinton got off the set, she exploded. Hillary proceeded to pick up a full glass of water and throw it at the face of her assistant, and then the screaming started. She was in a full meltdown, and no one on her staff dared speak with her. She went kind of manic and did not have control over herself at that point. How these people work with this woman is amazing to me. She really didn't seem to care who heard any of it.
So judgment is a key.
Temperament and judgment, yes.
You really had to see this to believe it. She came apart, literally unglued. She is the most foul-mouthed woman I've ever heard. And that voice at screech level, awful.
So judgment is a key.
Temperament and judgment, yes.
She screamed she'd get that effing Lauer fired for this. Referring to Donald Trump, Clinton said, "If that effing bastard wins, we all hang from nooses. Lauer's finished, and if I lose, it's all on your heads for screwing this up." So crooked Hillary fears the gallows, eh? Interesting.
So judgment is a key.
Temperament and judgment, yes.
Her dozen or more aides were visibly disturbed and tried to calm her down when she started shaking uncontrollably as she screamed to get an executive at Comcast, the parent company of NBC Universal, on the phone. Then two rather large aides grabbed her and helped her walk to her car. Matt Lauer was massively criticized for the rest of the week on air by the Clinton campaign and the rest of the MSM as having conducted an unfair and partisan attack on Clinton. According to the email, calls were made to the New York Times, the Washington Post, Huffington Post, and Twitter executives with orders to crush Matt Lauer. One staffer on the Clinton campaign told the NBC staff that they all fear Clinton's wrath and uncontrollable outbursts, and one described Hillary as an egotistical psychopath. Since Hillary does not allow any staff to have cell phones when she is in their presence, no footage is available. Interim DNC chairman Donna Brazile, the first black woman to hold the position, was singled out by Hillary during the rant. She screamed at Donna, "I'm so sick of your face. You stare at the wall like a brain-dead buffalo while letting that effing Lauer get away with this. What are you good for, really? Get to work. Janitoring this mess. Do I make myself clear?"
So judgment is a key.
Temperament and judgment, yes.
A female NBC executive said that Donna Brazile looked at Mrs. Clinton and never flinched, which seemed to enrage Hillary all the more. The executive continued, "It was the most awful and terrible and racist display, such a profane meltdown I've ever witnessed from anyone, and I will never forget it."
So judgment is a key.
Temperament and judgment, yes.
That woman should never see the inside of the Oval Office, I can tell you that. She was unhinged and just continued to verbally abuse everyone. She was out of control. Why did Lauer ask his rogue question? According to sources close to Lauer, because the American people deserve an answer from the former Secretary of State.
Now, having said all this, why aren't I 50 points ahead?
Here's your problem. Someone set this thing to evil.
I'm still reporting from Washington. Good day.
And at the end of that was that contentious woman, man. I tell you, she has gone off the rail like several times. All the books from previous Secret Service agents, they all say the same thing. Hillary becomes unglued and she starts screaming and cussing more than a drunken sailor would ever even consider. Jim, what is the matter with her?
Well, she's a narcissistic control freak.
Okay,
she only
freak.
cares about herself and those who make a difference to her, which up until now has included Huma Abedin, with whom she has been in an intimate relationship. Frankly, I don't care if Hillary is a lesbian. And one of Bill Clinton's early paramours explained that Bill had told her Hillary was bisexual. I actually lost my first radio gig, Daniel, for defending Hillary against charges that she was a lesbian, because I contended then that it made no difference in the performance of her duties. But because Huma, although born in the United States, was raised in Saudi Arabia, because her mother is the editor of a newsletter for the Muslim Brotherhood, I now believe that Huma is Hillary's Saudi Arabian handler, and that we have a situation that here that is ironic in the following respect. Huma first began working for Hillary as her intern, so that if it turns out that Hillary is undone by Huma Abedin, it's parallel to Bill Clinton being undone by his intern, Monica Lewinsky, about whom we have learned so much.
So, Jim, are you saying that Huma Abedin is handling something inside of Hillary's pantsuit?
I most certainly am. Yes.
Did I just say that?
Yeah, well, the people deserve to know. It's like about Michelle and Barack. We're being deceived and lied to. We have no idea who we're really dealing with. Mm-hmm. These Bill Still reports are devastating because the guy is totally serious, completely low key. He never utters a word that he hasn't verified. I mean, this is getting at the truth. Mm-hmm. So now you have this combination of WikiLeaks. You have the Obamacare increases where Bill Clinton was so precious when he said it's crazy you're paying twice as much for half as much. I mean, you couldn't nail it more exactly than that. And now all these revelations in relation to the Clinton Foundation. In fact, we have a senator, Tom Cotton, Republican from Arkansas, who lambasted the Clintons and their foundation, equating the former First Family to corrupt money launderers. Cotton, a Harvard Law School graduate and former paratrooper with 101st Airborne of the U.S. Army, knows a thing or two about the law regarding classified information and corruption. And he calls the Clinton Foundation the largest money laundering operation in the world. And let me add one more point, Daniel, because Hillary was lying right there to Matt Lauer in the World. She knows that the classification status of a document or an email is a function of its content, not whether it's already been stamped or classified. I mean, that only happens after you sit back and make an assessment of the content and then it's processed. Hillary Clinton herself was one of the officials in the Obama administration who was entitled to classify documents by having them imprinted as top secret, confidential. But she knows that those emails are all of a classified status even before they are stamped. James Comey was very indirect in explaining that her server did not have as much protection as we have for ordinary Gmail. Daniel, she wasn't even using a password on her server.
I mean, she's dumber than a box of rocks, or she's just so bold. I think it's because all the people that can investigate her have already been paid off and are all working in her camp. So is James Comey, is he going to release something Monday?
Well, I would be fascinated if he were to. It would be a very good thing because the people deserve to know. But the crucial factor is this, Daniel, that the NYPD have all this stuff, so that if the FBI doesn't act, then the NYPD will. And I'll tell you, I've been informed they have the largest intel operation in the world. These guys are tough as nails. And they're not going to let Loretta Lynch or any other Obama bureaucrat push them around. They're disgusted by this. It involves sexual abuse of young women, flying off to this, what's known as Orgy Island, owned by this corrupt guy with his Lolita Express.
Did Little Wiener go to those trips too?
Yeah, Wiener was on some of those trips as well as Hillary and Bill both. So here we have, Jeffrey Epstein. I'm looking at a photograph of his Lolita Express. Bill Clinton took some 26 trips on the Lolita Express and left his Secret Service behind when he did so. The man is a sex addict. I was shocked when I listened to Alan Combs try to trash Trump as a sexual predator and called into his show. This is just a couple of nights ago. And explained he need to be more precise with his language. That Donald may be a womanizer, but Bill Clinton is a sexual predator who has a series of rape allegations. They actually phonied one up against Trump just to try to make it look as though he was in trouble too. But I tell you, this is just the kind of dirt they dish. They fabricate everything they can, like the claims that Russia's involved in trying to hack into the election. It's ridiculous.
Well, Doctor, the video I just think that I should have played is the one just recently at a Hillary campaign stop where somebody had a sign that said Bill on one side. I think it said Bill is a rapist and Hillary for jail. On the other side, she went berserk. That kind of angry, screechy, nasty howl came out of her, and it came down from who she really is, man. She is a dictator down in there. She's used to having her own way. She's had years of fomenting hatred toward Bill Clinton, but she couldn't get rid of him because she needs him, because she's worthless and she has nothing to offer anybody except to run on his coattails. So that engenders in her and builds up a hatred that comes out of her. And she may just she may try, and I don't know if Bill still was saying this or not, but she wants this war with Russia to hide all this stuff that's in the government that she has corrupted. I think that's the whole plan, Mary, and that's why she keeps talking about Russia, and it makes no sense. She says Donald Trump is tied to Russia. What the hell? What are you even saying? She sold them 20% of our uranium. How is it even a note of any kind of? Where's the connection between Trump and Russia?
There is none. Spot on, and it turns out that John Podesta actually has had dealings with Russian mafia and the like. It's Podesta. They're making these phony attacks on Trump for offenses of which they themselves are guilty.
Exactly.
It's a common practice of individuals of this degree of evil and duplicity.
Well, yes, and I think it does go into the realm of evil. And Doctor, I don't know where you come on down on spirituality, but is there something more dark and sinister in the spiritual sense with the Clintons?
There appears to be, and in fact, even the National Enquirer is starting to report about it. There seem to be satanic aspects to this. It's very bizarre, Daniel. I'm no expert in this area, but I'll tell you, it would floor anyone with ordinary human sensibilities. Mm-hmm. If you have any common sense, decency, you couldn't possibly support the Clintons if you knew the truth about them.
Okay. All right, Doctor, we're right at the top of the hour. We take a 5-minute break. We'll reintroduce you in about 5-6 minutes. So before we go, what kind of website you got, or how can people see other things that you produce?
Well, I have a blog, jamesfetzer.blogspot.com, and my most recent books about these issues are all at moonrockabooks.com, Daniel. Okay. Moonrockbooks.com.
Okay. All right, Jim, just stay in the Newsmaker line there. You'll be out of the picture for 5 minutes. We'll be right back with you. All right, everybody. You are watching The Edge live tonight with our special guest, Dr. Jim Fetzer. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Stay right where you are. Lots more to come. Second hour. We'll be right back. Over Twitter, Twitterizing the world. And now let's go back to our Newsmaker line and bring back with us Dr. Jim Fetzer. Jim, welcome back.
Oh, thanks, Danny. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of conspiracies going on out there, but, as we said in the very front of the first hour, Doctor, that in fact, somebody on this show once said that no matter how bad you can imagine things are, you have to multiply that by 20, especially concerning the Clintons. These people have had 30 freaking years of scandals, and these scandals will follow right into the White House. Jim, the question is, will Hillary pardon herself if she gets elected?
It's a very good question whether Barack will pardon Hillary as part of a prior agreement or Hillary pardon herself, but the interesting aspect of that, Daniel, is they can only pardon one another for federal crimes. Now, because the NYPD is involved in this, there are a great many state crimes that are violated here, including money laundering, child abuse, all this sort of thing. RICO statutes encompass the Clinton Foundation. It looks very much as though Bill Clinton's visit with Loretta Lynch on that tarmac was to induce her to go after the email issue, but to ignore the Clinton Foundation, which appears to be the crux of the matter. This appears to be a vast network, such as Senator Cotton was denouncing, that is so big that the challenge becomes how to approach it, how can it be effectively tackled. May I say that the Donald has been fighting a battle on 3 different fronts politically. He's not only been campaigning against the Democratic National Committee, which of course sabotaged Bernie Sanders' own campaign, forcing Debbie Wasserman Schultz to step down. Mm-hmm. She's been replaced by Donna Brazile, who now, it turns out, has been giving questions to Hillary.
She had to step down from CNN.
For which she was fired from CNN, exactly. Stanford University has published 2 studies showing that if the election had been honest, that Bernie would have been the Democratic candidate. We have all kinds of indications of the way in which fraud is taking place here. An insider at the Department of Justice has revealed that there are 4 million who are dead or improperly registered on the voting rolls. I used to think that voter fraud was relatively insignificant, that the real problem is election theft using electronic voting machines. But it now appears voter fraud is a much bigger deal than I heretofore supposed. Jerry Brown signed a motor voter law in California, which automatically registers a person to vote when they obtain a driver's license. That sounds great until you realize that illegal aliens in California are allowed to obtain driver's licenses. It turns out that George Soros, the very guy who wants to homogenize all the races so that the pure Jewish race can arise to rule over the world, we're all supposed to be light brown, I suppose, actually owns or controls. He does not own, but he controls a company that has voting machines in 16 different states. So we're really very much up against it, Daniel. And just how this is going to play out, in addition to battling the DNC, the Donald has been having to take on the press, which has been so biased, it's absolutely incredible. In fact, even the New York Times has become a propaganda organ. You can get more truth about the Clintons out of the National Enquirer. Here's the latest issue, by the way, Daniel. And the last 3 issues of the National Enquirer have more accurate information about the Clintons and their degree of corruption than you will find in the New York Times. As far as WikiLeaks goes, Julian Assange has observed that WikiLeaks has never been challenged about the authenticity of even one of their releases, and the National Enquirer goes to great pains to vet their stories before they publish them. They're a highly reliable source in an area like this. And then in the third place, of course, O'Donnell is having to deal with the Republican establishment, because people like George Herbert Walker Bush, George W. Bush, Jeb Bush, these are people who believe in the New World Order. Really, to translate that, it means corporations ruling the world. This is why Hillary is so enthusiastic about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. For political purposes, she claims now that she doesn't support it, but that's simply
she's a liar. But Jim, going back to the Inquirer, they recently had a 9-page spread about somebody who came out who said they're one of the fixers, one of the people that goes after the people that that get close to the Clintons to expose them. This guy named, I think he may even have his name, but he details all the crap that they do, how they use the government, the IRS, blackmail, death threats. But let me ask you something. This is from New Jersey. A viewer in New Jersey says, WikiLeaks, one of their releases, you just mentioned WikiLeaks, it says, in order for Hillary to appear warm and charming, she first needs to have a hearty dose of violence. And so that kind of goes to what that video was saying with Bill Still, saying that as soon as she got off the set, she went and had her violent thing. I wonder, is the dope that she takes, is it enough to keep her contained? One day she's going to forget. What's going to happen? Is she going to press a nuke button?
Well, here's the deal on Hillary's health. It's a really troubling concern. She suffered a concussion in December of 2012, which led to her resignation as Secretary of State. This was in December. Led to her resignation as Secretary of State in February of 2013. Bill Clinton himself said it took her 6 months to get over it. But actually, she's never really gotten over it. She has frozen up at rallies. She has this medical guy, big black guy with several degrees in psychiatry, come up to her and tell her to keep talking, and she just says, I'll just keep talking. She's had these head fits where her head bounces back and forth. It's bizarre. It's like a bubble head, which is a symptom of serious neurological problems. She can't get up to a flight of stairs. She needs help. You notice in one of those reports, they talked about two big guys helping her to walk away in one of the Bill Still reports. Well, today she can't even get up a single step without help. She appears to be in an advanced state of Parkinson's disease. In fact, after the 9/11 memorial, Daniel, where she collapsed when they were getting her into her van, they took her away to what appears to have been, they call it Chelsea's apartment, but when Chelsea bought that on the 4th floor of this building, where she already had a very luxurious apartment in New York, they bought that because it had a private hospital on the same floor. The hospital is now closed because it has only one patient, Hillary Rodham Clinton. So they took Hillary there covertly, so there wouldn't be any public information about her treatment, but they have only one patient. A woman came bounding out later. She's 2 inches shorter than Hillary, 35 to 40 pounds lighter. She's at least 10 years younger. She's very limber, in great shape, very cheerful, unlike Hillary. She looks so much like her, I describe her as the Meg Ryan double, because she looks like Meg Ryan from You Got Mail. And a further confirmation, this was not Hillary Clinton. She wasn't surrounded by her Secret Service. She didn't have her medical handler. Not only Chelsea came down to see her off. In fact, just a couple days later, no doubt because Hillary was still recovering, they had a second Hillary double on a plane to Greensboro. She was taller and thinner than Hillary. She has a more sloped forehead. She has a different nose. She lacks 2 moles. Hillary has moles at the top right and bottom right of her mouth, which this woman did not have. She looks so much like her, I refer to her as the Meryl Streep double. And in my latest book, this From Orlando to Dallas and Beyond, the subtitle of which, Living in a False Reality of Constructed Events Where Even Hillary is Played by Doubles, you can find extensive documentation. There are over 400 photographs in that book, Daniel. And we have now just come out with our first book in a color edition. It's simply stunning. You can 15 contributors. You can find it at moonrockbooks.com.
Yeah, and the thing I say about that, there are pictures of her at the 9/11 ceremony, and she didn't have makeup. Her hair was unkempt. She had those Parkinson blue glasses on. But the person that came out of Chelsea's apartment had hairdo, makeup, and was, she said, it's a wonderful day in New York. It's like, who is that? So yeah. So now in the suggestion that there are Hillary doubles, how many are there?
Well, there was a Hillary impersonator from the past. Barneswell is her name, as I recall, who looked a great deal like Hillary 30 years ago. But she no longer appears to be a player. These are two doubles that they've been using now. There's suspicion there might even be yet another, but there are at least two, which we thoroughly document, as well as the problems with her health, where I reiterate she appears to be in an advanced state of Parkinson. Another sign of this is that her medical handler, the large black guy I described, has been walking beside her carrying what appeared to be an auto-injection syringe, should she have a seizure, but which they said was a flashlight. Well, it turns out it was a laser pointer, because persons with advanced Parkinson have trouble walking if they don't have a specific location to step. So he was actually showing her where she should step so she could actually physically go from point A to point B. And now I've noticed, Daniel, that they have someone also with an even larger flashlight. Apparently the tiny laser pointer is no longer sufficient.
Right. Okay, Doctor, we've got numbers of questions, so we'll get through some of these. See if you just keep it a little bit shorter so we can get through these. What about, is the Clinton body count, what's called the Clinton body count, is that increasing? And if so, how many? Where are we at? What's the number? Do we have any idea?
Well, Michael Rivero recently published a Clinton body count that had around 75. What you have to notice as far as recent additions is that Julian Assange's attorney wound up in front of a subway in London recently. These are now in the last, say, 18 months or so.
Then there's the one guy that got shot 18 times.
Well, there's the Seth Rich, who was the IT guy working for the DNC, who appears to have given Julian Assange all the emails that showed they were sabotaging Bernie Sanders' campaign. He wound up shot multiple times in the back. He's dead. Julian Assange's attorney is dead. The attorney process server who actually went to the DNC and served a class action lawsuit upon them, he's now dead. We have a report of an anesthesiologist who is supposed to have participated in brain surgery that Hillary had in June of this year, which I find simply astounding because I haven't found any other evidence about it. No doubt they're keeping that in tightly held secret, but he is dead too. So that the Clinton body count increases. I strongly suspect that Julian Assange is not going to have a long life. In fact, it's very interesting. I got a call just before I came on with you that Alex Jones tonight is going wild about all of the corruption here, all of the sexploitation, the Clinton Foundation and all that. And of course, as we know, while I don't always agree with Alex, he has a big audience, and right now he's doing something very worthwhile, beneficial to the public. Okay.
And here's a question. Will Obama declare martial law in order to stop the election?
Well, that's, of course, been a possibility that we have been contemplating. There are reports that the Army is prepared to handle a public uprising, which would be expectable if they steal the election. I think that there are serious problems with that because there's so much polling going on in so many states, and much of it is very detailed, but nevertheless, many of the polls have been rigged. It's very simple to do. CNN has been caught doing it repeatedly. You simply oversample a group that's predisposed to vote for the candidate you want to favor. So they have been oversampling Democrats. They've been oversampling women. They've been oversampling self-described liberals in order to make these polls come out. The polls that are trustworthy, in my opinion, are the ones that are being conducted in the immediate aftermath of events like the debates. BuzzFeed, for example, had one with 3.5 billion participants, Daniel. 3.3 of the 3.5 billion believed that Trump had won the debate. 6% thought America had lost. Only 2 supported Hillary. I think that's much more indicative. And if you go places, you find there are massive turnouts for Trump. Hillary would be in St. Petersburg and have 150. Trump is polling 15,000. I have a late report from yesterday that Tim Keene held an event on a college campus, and he drew a sum total of 8 people. 8 people, Daniel, came to see Keene.
He's lucky. He's lucky he got that many. Here's another question. This is from Steve Ellis. Says, this has maybe an unrelated church question. It says, has 99% of the churches been co-opted by the federal government?
I'm not really in a position to answer that question.
Okay.
I do believe that a lot of minorities are seeing through the way in which they have been manipulated in the past. In fact, it was rather stunning. In order to get a big turnout in Philadelphia, Hillary brought in Beyonce and Jay-Z, and he was using a great many obscene lyrics, including the N-word and the F-word and all that. Hillary goes after the Donald because he's used crude language. Well, Hillary's not beyond it, and you heard from Bill Still that she can simply go ballistic. This is a very corrupt human being, a very disgraced human being. If only the public knew the truth about her, she wouldn't succeed in running for dog catcher.
Well, I mean, it seems like Hillary Clinton's always looking for a woman that grabs her own crotch. All right, here's another question. Now, getting back to sort of a spiritual thing, is Hillary possessed by demons?
Well, I'm a professional philosopher, and actually, I am myself agnostic. I neither believe in the existence of God nor believe in the non-existence of God because it's unprovable. That's, of course, why it's an article of faith. But there are those I know who would describe her that way, and I certainly endorse the characterization of Hillary Clinton as among the most evil human beings who have ever existed on the face of Earth.
There is one little thing, though, that kind of corroborates that. And it's happened to Obama. It's happened to Hillary at least 3 times. Some mysterious fly seems to want to land on her face. What is going on? Is that because she's really dead?
Well, that was true at the last debate. I think that it was what's been going on. There's a Dr. Noel who has a video dissecting Hillary's health condition, and he noticed how many times she had canceled a series of campaign events, so she might have only one a week at that period of time. He said they were giving her a drug holiday. They're using such powerful drugs that by taking her off for several days, and then when they give her a new booze, that they have a more powerful effect. They can be very damaging to her body, but there are a number of experts who believe that she's going to have a very short lifespan. Some have said they don't believe she'll even live to be inaugurated should she be elected. But even a professor of medicine has said she had less than a year to live. This thing about the fly indicates to me that she was so doped up that she was almost anesthetized and didn't even have any sense or awareness the fly was on her face. Very embarrassing. Also, on several of these events, Daniel, her eyes have been crossing. This is a significant phenomenon that is a neurological symptom of serious cognitive and neurological problems.
Yeah, we actually had Dr. Noel on this program 2 weeks ago saying exactly what you just said. And it is interesting that the White House has these foul-mouthed, racist, talking about hoes and the N-word and all that kind of stuff. And then they go in and say that Donald Trump has a problem. I've never heard Donald Trump say anything like the kind of language that goes on in the White House. It's sort of a double standard that they use, and I don't know who believes them. Obviously, now Monday is pretty much the last day. Is the creature from Chappaqua, as I call her, they're going to pull it? Do they have a November surprise against Trump waiting?
Well, nothing would surprise me at this point in time. I mean, they made an assessment a long time ago of the Donald's vulnerabilities, and he likes women. He had that conversation with Billy Bush, who's a first cousin of George W. The Bushes, as I reiterated, are all New World Order. Donald is an opponent of the New World Order. He's an opponent of the ongoing wars in the Middle East. He's an opponent of the TPP. He wants to impose serious borders. where you even heard the description from Bill Still that George Soros wants to promote migration and mixing of the races so that we're all going to come out the same homogenized color so that the pure Jewish race can arise to lead us. This is unbelievable in the sense that it seems so grossly unethical and corrupt, but I truly accept that this is George Soros' view. He's been a big promoter of getting the immigrants into Europe, which are causing enormous consternation. Rape has become regular. Sweden has been destroyed. I mean, it's chaos. And nothing is more important to the integrity of our nation than that we affirm borders that are highly positive. But the fact of the matter is that they planned back in May to bring forward a group of women who had claimed that Donald had groped them and tried to kiss them inappropriately. That's already in WikiLeaks, Daniel. This is all completely contrived. They know that as long as the attention is in Donald, even if it's totally superficial and false, and not on Hillary, she has a chance. What the problem she has encountered is that last week and now the attention is focused on her. And of course, once that happens, there's every reason to believe that she will not be able to survive. In fact, it's very interesting. I just read a study of the stock market that showed on various occasions there's been a trend, a downward trend. And when that downward trend occurred, the party in office lost. There's that downward trend now suggesting the party in office will lose again. There's a really important piece, by the way, by Paul Craig Roberts I want to share with everyone, but I'll take a question before. He's talking about the election, how it was set up to be stolen from Trump, but that Hillary has now been exposed, that it may not be in the interest of the oligarchs to go forward with it.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I don't see a problem with Trump liking women. I mean, I'd rather hear that because a real man does like women. But I'd rather hear that than say Barry's bathhouse. I mean, Barry
That's
going
right.
up with.
There's nothing surprising that a straight alpha male would make approaches toward women. I mean, that's just not news. But the idea that the president of the United States is married to a cross-dresser or transgender, that their children are adopted, that he himself is gay, that Hillary is bisexual, that she and Bill have been engaging in sexual relations with underage childs through the procurement of this sexual monster and his Lolita Express, where he even has an island in the Caribbean, Daniel, known as Orgy Island, where they go to have sex with underage children. But personally, I've never understood the attraction. Why in God's name would any man want to have sex with a child? I've always been of the opinion that if I were going to have sex with a woman, it would be because she also wanted to have sex with me, and she was mature enough and competent enough to make that decision for herself.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they're going to upgrade to animals next. So, how is Hillary going to steal the election?
Well, listen to this, Daniel. Here's a wonderful piece by Paul Craig Roberts, who's our nation's leading public intellectual. Can the oligarchy still steal the presidential election? You can find it on my blog, jamesfetzer.blogspot.com. The election was set up to be stolen from Trump. That was the purpose of the polls rigged by overweighting Hillary supporters in the samples. After weeks of hearing poll results that Hillary was in the lead, the public would discount a theft claim. Electronic voting makes elections easy to steal, and I have posted explanations by election fraud experts of how it is done. Clearly, the oligarchy does not want Donald Trump in the White House, as they are unsure that they could control him, and Hillary is their agent. With the reopening of the FBI investigation of Hillary and related scandals exploding all around her, election theft is not only more risky, but also less likely to serve the oligarchy's own interest. Image as well as money is part of oligarchic power. The image of America taking a big hit if the American people elect a president who is currently under felony investigation. Moreover, a President Hillary would be under investigation for years. With so much spotlight on her, she would not be able to serve the oligarchy's interests. She would be worthless to them, and indeed, investigations that unearth various connections between Hillary and oligarchs could damage the oligarchs. In other words, for the oligarchy, Hillary has moved from an asset to a liability. A Hillary presidency could put our country into chaos. I doubt the oligarchs are sufficiently stupid to think that once she is sworn in, Hillary can fire FBI Director Comey and shut down the investigation. The last president that tried that was Richard Nixon, and look where that got him. Moreover, the Republicans in the House and Senate would not stand for it. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform Chairman Jason Chaffetz has already declared Hillary to be a target-rich environment. Even before we get to day one, we've got 2 years' worth of material already lined up. House Speaker Paul Ryan said investigation will follow the evidence. If you were an oligarch, would you want your agent under this kind of scrutiny? If you were Hillary, would you want to be under this kind of pressure? What happens if the FBI recommends the indictment of the president? Even thoughtless Americans would see the cover-up if the Attorney General refused to prosecute the case. Americans would lose all confidence in the government. Chaos would rule. Chaos can be revolutionary, and that is not good for oligarchs. Moreover, if reports can be believed, salacious scandals appear to be waiting their time on stage. For example, last May, Fox News reported former President Bill Clinton was much more frequent flyer on the registered sex offender's infamous jet than previously reported, with flight logs showing the former president taking at least 26 trips aboard the Lolita Express, even apparently ditching his Secret Service detail for at least 5 of the flights, according to records obtained by Fox News. Clinton's presence aboard Jeffrey Epstein's Boeing 727 on 11 occasions has been reported, but flight logs show the number is more than double that, and trips between 2001 and 2003 included extended junkets around the world with Epstein and fellow passengers identified on manifests by their initials or first names, including Titania. The tricked-out jet earned its Nabokov-inspired nickname because it was reportedly outfitted with a bed where passengers had group sex with young girls. Fox News reports that Epstein served time in prison for solicitation and procurement of minors for prostitution. He allegedly had a team of traffickers who procured girls as young as 12 to serve as his friends on Orgy Island, an estate on Epstein's 72-acre island called Little St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Some internet sites, the credibility of which is unknown to me, have linked Hillary to these flights. This kind of behavior seems reckless even for Bill and Hillary, who are accustomed to getting away with everything.
Well, they do get away with everything, and that's what has emboldened them throughout the years. And so she's going to put her own people in there to make sure that there no investigation proceeds. But Bill Clinton drug the United States through a year and a half. All he had to do was tell the truth. But no, he wanted to just drag the country through. So these investigations, but there's also at least 4 investigations into the Clinton Foundation right now, besides the ones coming up with Hillary. But where did these 650,000 emails come from?
Well, it appears that Anthony Weiner was fascinated by all of these exploits related in the emails and made copies of them, or else there was an auto-copying mechanism of which Yuma was unaware, because she actually appears to have responded with surprise and dismay when she and Hillary aboard the plane learned of this discovery and that the FBI was reopening their investigation.
Now, somebody suggested that what was happening was that Yuma put her contacts list on that computer, but somehow, like a cloud, it auto copied and transferred every email that it went through any of her contacts, and they all went over there like you would when you say, like, you have a phone and you go, the contacts goes to the cloud, and that's where those emails were going. So it is possible that those emails contain the original classified headings on them as well. Is it not?
Well, the point I made before, Daniel, is that the emails are classified even if they don't have a formal heading. That when you originate an email, it isn't normally originated with a formal heading. I mean, it could be, but Hillary knew perfectly well that she was an authorized official of the government to classify documents as top secret, secret, or confidential. She knew what she was doing was improper. Get this, Daniel, she even gave a lecture when she first became Secretary of State to all the members of the State Department about the importance of maintaining proper cyber security. She did all this for her own convenience and to ensure that because they were on a private server, they would not be vulnerable to Freedom of Information Act requests. In fact, we have heard the suggestion that Obama was encouraging other key members of his administration to do the very same. It turns out, by the way, that intent is not an aspect of this, that if you improperly handle classified information, you have committed the offense, and that among the penalties that apply to you is that you are no longer eligible to hold a federal office.
Well, yeah. Also, was it Paul Ryan that wanted to revoke her security clearance as well? But we're just 2 days away from the election. So, do you see that the election will take place? There won't be any actors out there. They keep trying to say that Al Qaeda is trying to mess with it. They're saying that Russia wants to interfere. All those, who knows why they're doing all that? Do you think the election will take place unabated?
Well, although most Americans are unaware, Steve Pieczenik, who has a long history of responsible conduct of government business, dating back over decades, about 40 years, has recently given a series of video announcements that there is a counter coup that is taking place to cope with the coup that's been affected by the Clintons and taking over the government, that there are officials in every intelligence agency and in the FBI that are opposed to this takeover, and that they're going to do everything they can to thwart it. What's most interesting, I think, about Paul Craig Roberts is his conclusion that if you're an oligarch worried about reopening Hillary's email case and additional FBI investigations such as into the Clinton Foundation, and concerned about what else might emerge from the 650,000 emails on Weiner's computer and the NYPD pedophile investigation, putting Hillary in the Oval Office doesn't look like a good decision. He concludes, at this point, I would think the oligarchy would prefer to steal the election for Trump instead of from him, rather than allow Americans who aren't paying attention to destroy America's reputation by choosing a person under felony investigation for President of the United States. Being the exceptional nation takes on new meaning when there's a criminal at the helm. Have you seen the poster that says, I'm voting for the candidate who's not under FBI investigation?
Yeah, but Jim, hold on for a second. Somebody just sent me a link saying that I'm guessing moments ago, it said that Trump was just rushed off a stage in Reno.
Why?
Reno, Nevada.
Say why?
Well, it says, this is from NBC. It says it's not immediately clear what prompted Secret Service agents to rush him off the stage. And I imagine that was just here shortly ago. So, I'm pretty sure he wears a bulletproof vest underneath there. But I tell you what, I would not put it past Hillary's people to say, look, man, he's going to win. They're going to have to go to the, one stage up.
Even William Bennett, who was the Secretary of Education under Ronald Reagan, has observed that the establishment would never allow Trump to assume office. I had an historian observe, this is months and months ago, that if Trump came into office, the consequences would be as profound as when FDR introduced the New Deal. There's clearly been a prior assassination attempt. This man who was apprehended in Trump Tower had a weapon that was manufactured without a serial number. That means it was manufactured specifically to serve as an assassin's weapon. He had a professional quality silencer, and his name turned out to be that of someone who had died a decade before. So there's been previous attempts. I think he has very good protection to Donald, and it would seem to me that this is very likely a case where they were mounting an attempt to take him out, but they were able to stop it.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I was him, I would go to Trump Tower with security and just wait out to the election, man, but that might not be safe too, because, thermite may be there too. So, I'd take him to an undisclosed location. You just can't put it past these people. That's the whole point of what we've been talking about. The level of evil and the amount of things that they will do and crimes that they will commit is beyond comprehension. And as that Bill Still video was saying, this Clinton Foundation thing, it goes into all levels of government and can bring our own government down because there's so many criminals that are a part of it.
Well, Guccifer, this Romanian hacker who actually had hacked into Hillary's email and had reported that at least 5 other governments or agencies were hacking into her email at the same time, has predicted that there's going to be an effort to steal the election for Hillary. The fact is, everywhere you go, you see lots and lots of Trump signs, very little enthusiasm for Hillary. In fact, that factor, enthusiasm, is simply categorically different. Who cares about Hillary? You got this guy she's running with, Tim Kaine, give a talk and 8 people turn out. They're even photoshopping images of Hillary at concerts. At rallies, because she has such a small crowd, so they import a group. Would you believe the New York Times last Sunday had Hillary giving an appearance at Pompano Beach in Florida, and she was surrounded by people holding Trump signs, Daniel, and that the New York Times published that on their cover is bizarre.
Well, listen, Doctor, if the creature from Chappaqua doesn't make it because of her serious Parkinson's disease illness, and the Tim Kaine guy, he steps up there, what kind of administration? I mean, he's like an unknown. Besides, he looks like a baboon. I mean, he looks like the Grinch, man. He has no lips. That's the first problem the boy got. But he's dumber than a bag of hammers. The second problem the boy got. What kind of administration? What kind of would he end all of the corruption or not? Because he doesn't seem like he's a part of it.
No, they picked him because he's a part of it. He's a puppet.
He's a part of it. Okay,
he's all for the TPP. Let me remind your listeners, Daniel, about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which has been described as NAFTA on steroids. We all know Bill Clinton brought us NAFTA, which has gutted our manufacturing and industrial base. The TPP creates a board of international attorneys who have the right to override the laws and statutes of any of the 14 Pacific Rim nations, thereby subsumed, up to and including the Constitution of the United States. Mm-hmm. So that if the TPP is passed, we are no longer a sovereign nation. Mm-hmm. Now, that may be welcomed by Hillary Clinton, George Soros, Bill Clinton, and the other globalists, but I think it would be, once Americans understand that she's for the TPP, Tim Kaine is for the TPP, that she went to Brazil and told bankers there that she has both a public position and a private position, and her private position is she's for open borders and open trade. She's all for free trade. She's all for subverting the nation to a globalized community run by corporations. That's what the New World Order is all about. So if you want to end the wars that we've been fighting in the Middle East, which were precipitated by 9/11, which in turn was brought to us by the CIA, the neocons, and the Department of Defense and the Mossad, where most of the neocons were dual U.S.-Israeli citizens, where these wars were conducted to follow an agenda revealed to us by General Wesley Clark of taking out the governments of 7 nations in the next 5 years, beginning with Iraq and Libya, ending with Syria and Iran. If it hasn't played out that way because of the intervention of Russia, it's not been for lack of trying. All of this has been to benefit Israel. None of this is to benefit the United States, and it's to pave the way for the greater Israel that would dominate the entire region from the Tigris, Euphrates to the Nile. And by the way, ISIS was created by the Defense Intelligence Agency in 2012. Judicial Watch was able to obtain the documents under Freedom of Information Act request. I published about it, spoken about it on multiple occasions. Check out how we know ISIS was made in the USA. In 2012, Hillary was still Secretary of State. Barack Obama, of course, was president. So it really is the case, as Don Lenz observed, that Hillary and Barack Obama brought us ISIS.
Benjamin Franklin is quoted as saying, the older I get, the more I'm convinced that God rules in the affairs of men. Would you agree with him?
Well, as I've explained, Daniel, as an agnostic, I don't believe in God, but I have many friends who do and who pray for me, and I welcome those forms of spiritual support. I have great respect for Benjamin Franklin, and, I don't want to disagree with him on a point like that.
I was going to say, from an agnostic point of view, how would you rewrite that sentence?
Well, that's a tough chore. You'd like to believe that ultimately truth and justice are going to prevail, and I would like to believe that will happen in this instance. And if what Steve Pachinik is telling us, and if what the New York police are saying about it, it just might happen that we're able to come to grips with the monstrous evil that's been enveloping the United States for decades now, decades and decades.
Well, the word evil, and we've used it several times in our conversation tonight, that denotes or sort of exudes a spiritual mindset of a frame of some sort, framing something as evil. What is your definition of evil, and where does it come from?
Well, evil is a profound degree of corruption that far exceeds even normal criminal offenses. I mean, when you're talking about sexual practices with children, when you're talking about stealing elections, when you're talking about RICO, a criminal racketeering enterprise, when you're trying to deprive the people you claim to represent of their rights and their liberties, all of these are evil acts, and they're being perpetrated, it appears, in spades by the Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, and all of their allies, including John Podesta, Loretta Lynch, Barack Obama, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Donna Brazile. I mean, it's almost endless. Go to WikiLeaks and read, the 100 most telling WikiLeaks. I have a post about that on my blog, too.
So somebody as evil as Hillary Clinton and her horde of enablers, they have obviously got away. We have already described the Clinton body count, which indicates there is murders going on, and of course the mountain of evil deeds and corruption and thefts and what have you. But if Hillary passes on to the next life and her horde, is that the end of them? Is there nothing on the other side to give justice for their acts on this earth?
Well, it's devoutly to be wished, Daniel. I don't happen to believe in an afterlife, but I certainly admire the vision of justice ultimately being meted out for those who are deserving. And the concepts of heaven and hell exert a powerful influence on our behavior during our brief span on Earth. So I like the idea, even though from the point of view of my professional background as a philosopher, I'm unable to accept it as true. As an article of faith, I certainly admire it.
All right. I don't get a chance to talk to philosophers very, very often. So as in our final minutes, Mr. Philosopher, where does life come from?
Well, I mean, I think the evidence for evolution is simply overwhelming. I published 2 books that deal with evolution. One is entitled The Evolution of Intelligence. The other is entitled Render Unto Darwin, where I discuss, evolution. It's rather complex. Most misunderstandings about evolution derive from an oversimplified model according to which evolution simply involves genetic mutation and natural selection. Actually, there are 8 different causal mechanisms of evolution, including 4 that generate genetic diversity, not only genetic mutation, but sexual reproduction and artificial selection and group and artificial. Let's call it actually genetic drift and intervention in, organizing mating, like arranged marriages. And then there are 4 different mechanisms that promote selection in terms of who survives within the initial population: natural selection, but also sexual selection, also group selection, also artificial selection. It's just much more complicated. It does appear to be, elements that were present in ancient Earth in its origins, including amino acids and others that were present there with a very primitive origins. But if you can envision, for example, the emergence of a kind of black algae that had a single heat or light sensitive cell, you can imagine that it might have had, evolutionary or adaptive advantages, and that therefore more of that kind would develop, and eventually, through a rather complex process, we'd have many different forms of life.
So you don't see that the second law of thermodynamics in any way detracts from that theorem?
No, I write about it, actually. I mean, although the second law posits, of course, entropy as a global phenomenon, meaning there's a tendency of the universe toward disorganization or kind of evening everything out. That's still nevertheless consistent with local increases in complexity, and that appears to be what we have here with life on Earth. A local increase in complexity, which is compatible with and doesn't violate the second law of thermodynamics. Although I do think the ultimate destiny, of all life is going to be something like, if we began with a big bang, we can have the expansion forms of life until we reach a point where a contraction occurs and all mass and energy become consolidated again, and you have another big bang and so forth. We could be in any one of an endless number of cycles of that kind, according to one way of looking at the universe.
So what initiated all this?
Well, there are some questions to which we have no answer, Daniel. And therefore, I do not fault those who want to believe in a God as the creator. It's simply that it's a matter of faith. It's not an article of science. My background is as a philosopher of science. So I spend a great deal of time differentiating between science and non-science, which is not the same as sense and nonsense, because there are many things people believe that make good sense, but simply aren't scientific in their nature because they're not testable on the basis of observation and experiment.
Some people claim that they've had their lives turned around because they've accepted Christ as their Savior. What do you say to those people there?
Oh, I respect that. It's a bona fide fact of the nature of knowledge that experiences that individuals have that are profound and personal are non-transferable to other persons. They either have those experiences or they do not have those experiences. I don't dispute those who claim to have had those experiences, although I myself have not.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jim, if you ever end up in a deathbed and, you may have heard something like this before in your life, you might want to turn to that just to be sure,
I know.
Just to be sure.
Saul said, look, if you're going to die, and there may be a God, but maybe not. Yeah. Why not believe in God? Because then, if there is one, you're better off than not believing.
Well, yeah,
it's a question of your personal standards for belief and your commitment to rationality. Yeah. But again, I reiterate, I have no problem with those who believe in a supreme being. It's just that I am not among them.
Right. What you want to say is you want to say, Jesus, come into my heart while it's still ticking, because I don't think he does after it stops. Jim, we're at the end of our broadcast here. Anything you'd like to say about your website or your blog? You go right ahead.
Well, what I've been seeking to do in this last period of my life since I retired in 2006 is to bring together experts to document the true history of the United States. I mean, if you believe that Sandy Hook actually involved the murder of 20 children and 6 adults, you'll discover when you look at the evidence that the school was closed by 2008, that there were no children there, that it was not compliant with Americans for Disability Act, so that if you simply look down on a parking lot, you can tell there's none of the familiar blue and white parking areas, blue and white signage. That means it could not have been legally operating as a school there. It was a 28-degree Fahrenheit ground temperature day. That meant to conduct school, the school would have had to have been heated. But the boilers were so decrepit they couldn't heat the school, so there's no steam or heat rising from the building. There are 2 rows of automobiles all parked facing the school. That's ridiculous because the driving instructor have you driving and then park facing away. But it was so much simpler that they were just going to serve as props to bring him in a single line, 2 by 2 by 2. We have documented the case about Sandy Hook, about the Boston bombing, about Orlando and Dallas, even about the moon landings. We have one entitled, the series editor, I'm the book's editors, but the series editor, Mike Palachuk, suggested that the second of our books after Nobody Died at Sandy Hook should be, and I suppose we didn't go to the moon either, because that might be an expression of disbelief. Well, I hate to say it, but the evidence supports that we didn't go to the moon either. Wow. There are a host of other surprises. Figuring out what actually did and did not happen, Daniel, is a very challenging enterprise, and I'm doing my best to record the difference between them for the benefit of the American people and indeed of the world.
All right. Nice. Salute you for it, Dr. Jim Fetzer. We appreciate you coming on the Edge television broadcast tonight. Can we have you on again sometime?
Oh, that would be my great pleasure, Daniel. I think you're doing an excellent job. You're a wonderful host. and you're dealing with the important issues, the most important that we confront in our lifetime. And I only say, let it not be the case that Hillary Clinton becomes president of the United States, because the consequences are going to be horrendous.
Well, Jim, that's where you might want to believe in prayer, right there. All right, sir.
I'm willing to pray for that outcome, Daniel.
All right, I've made progress. Okay. Well, thanks for coming on the show there, Doctor.
My pleasure.
All right, you bet. All right, everybody, that was Dr. Jim Fetzer on the program tonight. And if you missed this exciting show, it will begin to replay in our main player here just shortly. We'll put it up in our podcast, and we'll also put it up in our YouTube channel. And the high definition extract, and also in our TuneIn player too as well. Next week, we're going to have back with us, Josh and Christina Peck. They're always a lot of fun to have, a cute couple there, just full of love for each other, and just having a good time, enjoying this life and searching out spiritual matters, and what a great thing to watch there. November 19th, Stuart Bitkoff's going to be with us talking about Johnny Appleseed, but not just that he planted apples, trees, and orchards, but he was on a spiritual journey. Hopefully Dr. Fetzer will engage in that spiritual journey too as well. And November 26th, Matthew Appler is going to be here talking about the God part of the brain. As y'all know, every once in a while I flash that big Daniel brain in the back, but God's up in that thing. December 3rd, MJ Evans is going to be talking about Behind the Mist. That's going to be a lot of fun. There's always something in the mist. December 10th, Jaco Prislou talking about Armageddon Now. Well, let's see. December 10th, of course, that's well after the election. We'll know if Armageddon's coming, I guess, based on who's got the controls there. But like I said in last week's rant, I think it was last week's rant, maybe I've ranted so many times, don't even know. But listen, doesn't matter who wins. Don't go hide out. Don't run, don't fly out of the country. Don't go to Jerusalem or the Rock of the Dome or any other kind of thing. Look, life will continue no matter who wins the election. And as I always say, you only have one life to live. Live it to the fullest, everybody. December 17th, Jason Quitt will be with us talking about time travel. And there you go. That'll be a wrap for this evening's show. Thank you for all the questions and interaction in the live chat. If we haven't had a guest on the program you'd like to see, just drop me a line to edgeam@yahoo.com. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get all the latest update videos. That's it. Daniel Ott for The Edge. Bye-bye.